Hello, hello everybody. It's Helen, the Authentic Celebrant. There's a few things popping up at the bottom of my screen I'm trying to make sense of, but I think we're all live and good to go. So welcome along to this week's session. Good to see you. If you are watching live, if you want to drop a hashtag live in the comments, that would be lovely. And if you're watching on replay, because you're watching at another time, please put hashtag replay in the comments. That would be really useful for me, and good to see you. So this week's session is all about self-care, and specifically self-care when you're planning your ceremony. So let's face it, whatever type of ceremony you're planning, whether it's a wedding or completely the other end of the spectrum, a funeral, there are going to be elements of stress within that, more than likely, and for lots of different reasons. But essentially, self-care, I just wanted to kind of remind you all that self-care is really important, and it's absolutely essential that we care for ourselves and we make sure that we are okay in whatever it is that we're doing in life. And it's often something that gets overlooked, and that people think, well, you know, that person over there, they're doing that, or they've got that going on, and of course they should take some time for themselves and, you know, care for themselves and look after themselves, but what I've got going on, you know, doesn't really matter, or it's not as important, it's not as significant, and we kind of tend to drop the self-care bit to sort of the bottom of the list because you've got the ironing to do, or the kids to pick up, or, you know, a job to go to, or whatever it is. So it's really easy to kind of get distracted and let other things take priority. But actually, it's a really, really good thing to just acknowledge in yourself when you're getting stressed or when things are becoming too much, and just taking a little bit of time for yourself to make sure that you're doing something that can alleviate that for you. So, like I said, whatever ceremony or event that you're planning, it may well become a little bit stressful at times. And as I said, that could be for a number of reasons. It could be because you're just so immersed in the planning. It just seems like you're completely surrounded by that subject matter. If it's a wedding, for example, there's so many different elements to a wedding that you might be looking at and trying to research. And deciding what you want, that you just sort of become consumed by it all, and there doesn't seem to be anything else in your life. Or it could be that it's overwhelming and stressful in the sense of, like I said earlier, something like a funeral, where of course you're experiencing grief and loss, and you're trying to deal with that element of things and that emotion, as well as then planning sort of this more practical side of things in terms of a funeral or a celebration of life ceremony. So there's all kinds of things, all types of reasons that you might want to just take some time to care for yourself during that planning process. And it could also be that actually just the whole thing of planning a ceremony is just something else that you're having to do on top of your full-time job. Whether that's going into an office, or, by the way, if you're a stay-at-home mum full-time, of course that's a full-time job too and takes up a lot of time and energy. It could be that you have caring responsibilities, you know, you are caring for an elderly relative or parent, or indeed you have young children that are dependent on you and need extra care for whatever reason. So, you know, we've all got different commitments and different things going on in our life, which means, you know, that sort of added thing on top of planning our ceremony just might be sort of another thing to have to get through or have to think about. So I wanted to share with you my top 3 tips for self-care. So we'll just get straight on with it. So tip number 1 is, and I'm looking down because as ever I'm looking at my my notebook because I absolutely don't want to miss telling you anything that I think's really important. So tip number 1 is about making time and space for yourself. And I know that, you know, loads of people say that, oh, just make time for yourself. And if you're really busy and you've got loads of stuff going on, you're probably thinking, well, yeah, all right, how do I do that then? How do I make this time and space for myself? And it can seem a task in itself, can't it, to do that? But I think it's important just to grab any chance you can. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you've got to plan out your time and your week to the nth degree. You know, I know lots of people who sort of plan their time almost like a timetable, like, you know, on Monday morning between 9 and 10 I'm going to be doing this, and then between 10 and 12 I'm doing this, and almost their whole life is kind of planned out like that, and it works for them, and that's great. Whatever works for you. Everybody has got a different way of managing their time, and, you know, as many different and unique people that there are in the world, that there are different and unique ways of managing your time, and, you know, you'll find what's best for you. So some people do kind of plan out their time in that kind of, in a very structured way. So you could then say, okay, on Thursday night between 7:30 after I've watched Helen's Live and 9:30, I know that I've got that time spare, or that I'm not going to be interrupted, so I'm going to use that time to do something for myself. It could be that you are just grabbing, you know, 15 minutes before you go out and do the school run, to just sit down. Just sit down for 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes even. Just sit down and don't do anything. Don't need to look at social media. Don't need to think about, oh, I've got, what am I going to cook for tea tonight? Just 5 minutes. Just sit down. It could be that you have got commitments where you take your children to something. So, for example, for me personally, I take my daughter to a swimming class every week. And it's not that far away from home, but it's far enough that I have to drive, and it's at a time of day which is just crazy with the traffic. So rather than me battling through the traffic to take her to her class, then battling all the way through the traffic back home again to spend half an hour at home kind of thinking, oh, I've got to put on the tea, I've got to do something else, and I'll just do the hoovering while I'm here, and then battling all the way back through the traffic again to collect her. Actually, I take that time to just sit in my car. So while I drop her off, she goes in, does her swimming, and I just sit in my car while she's doing her swimming, and I use that time to do whatever I want to do. So whether it's I take a book and I just use that time to sit and read a book, whether I just kind of sit and close my eyes and in silence, or I have the radio on and just listen to some music that I actually want to listen to, rather than having everyone else in the car going, oh, I want to listen to this. You know, just listening to the type of music that you like, that maybe you don't always get the chance to do, is something that you can do to care for yourself and to just help you to de-stress a little bit. So there are ways and means that you can find time, I'm sure, whether it's 5 minutes, half an hour, 2 hours, sometime in your week to just be. So that's tip number one, trying to find that time and space for yourself. Tip number two is about talking and journaling. So talking first. Talking is a really great way to alleviate stress, because actually if you talk to somebody, or actually even if you're on your own and you just talk out loud, that is a really good way to alleviate stress and just get stuff out there, out of your head. You know, release the tension in your body. Even just talking about something out loud can really be a major release. So, you know, pick up the phone, call a friend, call somebody, or find somebody who maybe isn't directly related to the situation that you're in. So planning your ceremony, it might be that you pick up the phone to someone other than your parents, because maybe your parents are really involved in planning your ceremony with you, or maybe you've got particular relatives that are really involved and have really got big input. It can be good to talk to somebody who's slightly removed, who doesn't necessarily know all the ins and outs, who you can just sort of download to, and they can just go, yep, okay, I hear you. And sometimes that's all you need, is just someone to say, yep, I hear what you're saying. And And you know, I get it, you don't even need solutions sometimes. It's just having that avenue of being able to voice what your concern is. So talking, and then the other half of that was journaling. Now, I know journaling you may or may not be familiar with. It might be something that you do already, and that's great. If you don't, I personally would recommend it. I think it can be, again, just like talking, actually writing down how you're feeling or what you're thinking can be a really good release as well. It doesn't need to make sense even what you write, because journaling is personal to you. It's not that you're writing something for someone else to read or someone else to look at or pick apart or analyse in any way. It's a really personal thing. So it can be a really good release to just write it down again, so stuff isn't in your head. It could be that you're just writing a list of stuff, whether it's, yeah, I need to do the hoovering, or I've got to go and do the shopping, I've got to pick the kids up, and I also need to think about going to the jewellers to look at rings, or I need to think about finding a celebrant because I don't know how to find one of those, or who to pick, so I just need to do that. Writing down could be a list, but journaling I think is something that everyone should look at, and if you don't already. And so tip number 3 is about doing your favourite things. So we talked about finding time and space to just be, and I think that's really important, to just be, but also finding your favourite things to do. So what do you like to spend your time doing if you can? And it might be that you enjoy sort of sports, swimming, group sports, running, jogging, that kind of thing. So actually that bit of time that you've carved out for yourself, go do it. It might be that you enjoy reading and listening to music, again what we've already spoken about. Use that time to do that. It could be taking a bath, because actually normally every day you're so busy, really you only just have time for a quick shower and that's it. So actually taking a bath can be a nice sort of luxurious moment to relax and de-stress. It could be as simple as just doing anything other than something related to planning your ceremony. It could be that you have a lunch break where you don't look at your social media, looking at various different suppliers and sort of being overwhelmed by all the images and inspiration out there for ceremonies. It could be that you just take a night off, so you and your partner, instead of talking about, well, which cake maker shall we get, just do something different. Watch some trashy TV. It's only one night, and those suppliers and those ideas that you're thinking about aren't going to suddenly go away just because you have taken a couple of hours off from thinking about it. So do yourself a favour and go and do something that you really enjoy that's not related to your ceremony. So they're my top 3 tips. So just to recap, tip number 1, making time and space for yourself. Tip number 2, journaling and or talking to somebody or about what's going on in your head. And number 3 is about just finding your favourite things to do. And it might be that actually you're so busy that you've forgotten what you like to do. So just sit down and think about that. You write it out. Again, write a nice list. I do like a list. What are your favourite things to do, and how can you do more of that? How can you incorporate that into your life? So on my website there is going to be coming, so keep an eye on it, theauthenticcelebrant.co.uk. There's going to be a free PDF document on there with some more information and tips about self-care when you're planning your ceremony. So look out for that. That will be available in the next few days. There is also coming some guided audios. So I have recorded some audios around relieving stress and anxiety. They range from sort of 3 to 5 minutes up to 10 to 15 minutes. So there's something for everybody there. And again, they'll be available in the shop page of my website now. So the shop page has just recently launched, and at the moment it only has 1 product, but there is more coming and they will be there in the next few days. So take a look at that. So that's today's session. Thank you for watching. If you want any more information about me and the Authentic Celebrant and what I do, the website, as I said, theauthenticcelebrant.co.uk, head on over there. You can sign up for my newsletter on the website if you want to keep up to date with tips and advice and news and exclusive offers for my newsletter readers. And you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook, of course. Here we are on Facebook. So it was lovely to talk to you again, and I will see you next week. Goodbye.